Hello and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 9, Episode 17, The Bookstore. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. I was about to say good morning, everyone, but I don't know what time of day you're listening to this. That was a ridiculous thing to think I could say. I am recording this in the morning, which is why I wanted to say that. I'm sure that didn't need explanation. Well, here it comes, guys. Another Colorado weather report. Oh my gosh. I realized how often I talk about the stupid weather on my podcast. You know those commercials? Have you guys seen? They're so good. I can't remember which insurance company. I guess, what does that say about the ad? I just remember how funny they are. The ad where the guy is trying to help people probably around my age or younger to stop them turning into their parents. And this is my thing. This is me turning into an old person, like constantly talking about the weather. I mean, my husband's been there for years. Like, it's just constantly the weather app. Let's check the weather app. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. And anyway, it's not going to stop me right now because we are in the midst of a very unexpected blizzard here in Colorado. I just had to take my kids to school in this crazy weather. And then I went straight to the gym because I'm on the road. I may as well. I had a yoga class to get to, which got canceled. So anyway, it was a harrowing drive, but I made it. Thank goodness. I've also, something that made it better is that I've been celebrating the Robin catalog. For those of you not aware, Robin is an amazing artist. Robyn. Look her up. Her music just puts me in a good mood. My daughter and I were watching an old episode of RuPaul's Drag Race what season are we on now? 11? No, 12. And Robin was one of the guest judges. And I was just reminded, I'm like, oh my God, I used to mainline her music years ago. And so I just decided to blast it during the blizzard. It's good blizzard music. It's good anytime music. I highly, highly recommend. So there's my music recommendation. That's something I don't do very often on this podcast. But also you got the weather that I'm going through, which you get, I think, about 1,000% of the time on this podcast. Okay, well, now that you have the weather and music recommendation for the day, let's get into this episode. The synopsis for The Bookstore is as follows. George is forced to buy a book after he reads it in the bookstore's bathroom. Elaine is humiliated after making out with a coworker at a Peterman office party, while Jerry catches Uncle Leo shoplifting and turns him in. Kramer and Newman start a rickshaw company in Manhattan and hire homeless people to pull the rickshaw. This episode was written by Spike Feresten, Darren Henry, and Mark Jaffe? It's Jaffe. However, you're supposed to say that. I apologize for the mispronunciations. All right, we start out in Jerry's apartment. Kramer's on the couch and Jerry leaves to do a set. And we get this really fun montage of all the things Kramer gets up to while Jerry is gone. Of course, raiding the kitchen, making a total mess. He's riding Jerry's bike around the apartment, the bike that never seems to move. Apparently setting something on fire in Jerry's bedroom while trying to put it out with the hose hooked to the kitchen sink. He rearranges the furniture. He takes apart his phone. He's yelling at some guy on the street from the window and then kind of eggs him on to come upstairs and say that to his face. And then the next thing we know, he's trying to keep the guy from barging into the apartment at the door. My favorite part of this is him pretending to be Jerry doing stand-up. He's hung up the shower curtain in the hallway and comes out with a spoon. What's the deal with politics? I don't get it. Am I right, people? And he does this smile. It's one of my favorite Kramer moments. Is he just trying to have Jerry's big teeth? I don't know. He's also hosting a tea party with a ton of people in the apartment. Fun fact, the elderly woman sitting next to Kramer when he's pouring tea into her cup, that's Jerry Seinfeld's mother. I thought that was so sweet. And then finally, we see Jerry come home to find Kramer asleep on the couch. And Jerry's like, are you kidding me? He's really annoyed that Kramer's drink isn't on a coaster. This is really well done. I love this montage. Next, we're in Brentano's bookstore. Jerry and George are debating the best place to meet women. And Kramer's looking at a book about Hong Kong and says how he's always thought New York could use rickshaws. Oh yes, that's what New York needs, more slow-moving vehicles. George heads to the bathroom, and on the way to the bathroom, he picks up a big art book to take in there. Kramer remembers Elaine's been to Hong Kong. I should give her a call. And Jerry says, oh, she's at the Peterman party, you know, the one where she danced last year. Ooh, that wasn't dancing, Kramer says. We all know how Kramer felt about it. Jerry sees Leo in the distance, Uncle Leo, and he slips a book into his jacket, and Jerry is appalled. Did I just see that? Kramer's like, well, that'll keep you busy for a couple of days. Next, we're at the Peterman party. Elaine is grabbing some appetizers when a coworker comes up to her and asks, are you going to dance this year? Kind of all smug and with a grin on his face. She says, maybe, all over your face. And he walks away. This coworker's name is Walter. The catering waitress says, if you do, the cooks want to know. They missed it last year. Peterman gives a toast in a language apparently spoken in Papua New Guinea, which it's not spoken there. It's an African language. Either way, it's probably not too culturally sensitive for him to do this. The music starts. Same song as last year, Shooting Star by Earth, Wind & Fire. Peterman asks who's dancing, and Elaine looks around uncomfortably. Peterman offers to get it started and very skillfully spins a woman around and dances impressively with her. Elaine just chugs her wine. Of course he can dance. A man named Zach sits at her table and introduces himself. Elaine says, hi, I'm miserable, and laughs. The actress in this scene who plays the waitress is Heather Morgan. She's also appeared in the Dana Carvey show. She was a writer on that show as well. The Comeback and Sister Sister. By the way, The Comeback, it's like a cult hit on HBO starring Lisa Kudrow. I cannot recommend it enough. She is beyond brilliant in that show. The show itself is brilliant. Highly recommend. Anyway, back to Heather Morgan. I think she's adorable. And I love that she gets a good laugh with her line. She's very sweet. My take on this scene, this is a really fun scene to start Elaine's plot. Of course, Peterman would have the total opposite dance skills to what she previously had in The Little Kicks. Walter coming up to her with that smirk on his face. It's so funny, and I think the response is even better. What a miserable night for Elaine. And I just want to point out how brilliant it is what they did here. This sort of mirroring of the scene from The Little Kicks. It's wonderful. Again, playing Shining Star, Peterman saying, who's dancing? And then I'll get it started. Oh, really well executed. Nice little flashback moment, but with a totally different result. Next, we're back at Brentano's. George exits the bathroom when the manager sees him trying to put the art book back on the shelf. Excuse me, sir, did you take that book with you in the bathroom? George just stares at him. He knows he's caught. Just says, what do you want to hear? Ba 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 bom ba dom bom 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 bom. We have a Gilmore Girls Seinfeld connection. The manager in this scene is played by Ted Rooney. He played Maury Dell and appeared in 19 episodes of Gilmore Girls. Very, very funny character. He was married to Sally Struthers' character, Babette. A couple things I found interesting about him. He's 6'6", which is very apparent. It's apparent here that he's tall, but especially in Gilmore Girls because he's next to Sally Struthers in pretty much every scene he appears in. And I believe she doesn't even clear 5 feet. So that visual was always funny. And in this episode, the bookstore manager's name, the character name, was renamed to Crichton because of his resemblance to the author Michael Crichton. All right, next we're in Monks. George is so pissed that he was forced to buy this book for $100, and he insists it was entrapment. They're serving bran muffins and coffee, and you're surrounded by reading material. Well, his plan is he's going to return it when there are different people working. He asks Jerry if he wants to see a movie later, and Jerry can't because he needs to address this issue with Uncle Leo. He caught him shoplifting a book. Well, George is proud of Leo. All right, Leo, sticking it to the man. Elaine enters looking pretty rough. She's got a cocktail flu. Oh, right, the party. George asks, did you dance? I love the way he asks. So tentative. She says, no. I found a better way to humiliate myself. There was this guy, and we had a few too many. Oh, you went home with him? No, we made out at the table like our plane was going down. Oh, Jerry's amused. The drunken makeout, an office classic. Well, Elaine is concerned what this is going to do to her reputation as someone in her position. What is your position? I am an associate. George says, oh, hey, so am I. The waitress says, yeah, so am I. Elaine is so distressed. Now she's the office skank. George suggests, well, maybe you just tell everyone you're dating. This lifts Elaine's stress immediately. Yes, because if we're dating, it was just a beautiful moment between two lovers, as opposed to a spirited bout of Skanko-Roman wrestling. Oh, bravo, Elaine says. My take. We see hungover Elaine. We learn how she tried to cope with the humiliation of that party, getting drunk and making out with her colleague. And can't help but think, like our plane was going down? Is this any kind of foreshadowing for the finale? Something to think about. The whole exchange about, I am an associate, that really cracks me up. I looked it up because I'm like, isn't associate just a term to reference someone who works for a company? It's kind of synonymous with employee. I mean, I know my mom was an associate at JCPenney. Her card said associate discount, and the night we would go to shop after the store closed down, it was a special night called associate night. I mean, the way JLD delivers it with such importance, it's very funny. And then it's her half-sister, the waitress, who says, yeah, so am I. Such a great moment. But yeah, I looked it up, and associate basically just means you work at the same company. We get a friendly, helpful Benestanza moment with George suggesting telling everyone that they're dating. And Elaine is totally on board taking the advice. I like these moments where George is helpful. I mean, they could have easily given this line to Jerry to be helpful, but instead, he uses the opportunity to say his Skanko-Roman wrestling line, which I do think fits better. And the bravo. It's so good. I mean, Jerry delivers that line with such a smug bug face, and hungover Elaine is in no mood. I'm not in the mood. George likes it, though. I like the little thumbs up he gives Jerry. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry enters to find Kramer and Newman at his table with papers scattered, plates of food, and mugs. Kramer tells Jerry they're planning to make this whole rickshaw thing happen. And Newman knows a guy in the Hong Kong post office, and he's shipping us a rickshaw. It can't miss. Yes, it can, Jerry says. Jerry asks, well, who's going to pull the rickshaw? And there's an awkward moment between Newman and Kramer. Kramer makes it clear he will not be pulling it. No, I can't do it. How does he move his mouth that fast? No. Kramer then thinks about homeless people. They could pull the rickshaw. They do have an intimate knowledge of the street. Yeah, they're just walking around. We just strap a rickshaw onto them. Well, that's the first sensible thing I've heard all day, Jerry says, very sarcastically. Next, we're in Monk's. Jerry is there with Uncle Leo. Jerry asks if he's doing okay. Well, I still have the ringing in the ears, he tells Jerry. Well, what about money? Do you need any? Uncle Leo scoffs. He says, I should be loaning you money, but I'm not. Well, Jerry just confesses, I saw you in Brentano's yesterday. Why didn't you say hello? Because you were too busy stealing a book. Leo rolls his eyes. You still say hello? And Leo tells Jerry it's not a big deal. We do it all the time. Who? Criminals? No, senior citizens. And he laughs at Jerry suggesting he'll get arrested. Come on. If he gets caught in the act, he'll act all confused. And he does this little confused routine. No, who am I? Can you take me home? Jerry's like, okay. But then Leo relents. Fine, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, you made your point. Then Leo shouts to the restaurant, would somebody answer that damn phone? Sounds like he has tinnitus ringing in the ears. Yes. I think everyone's seen commercials for tinnitus. And ironically, I just watched an old Gilmore Girls episode where they talked about tinnitus. I mean, this Gilmore Girls Seinfeld connections it spans all kinds of levels. All right, next we're at the Peterman offices. Elaine is walking with Walter, telling him how she and Zach have been dating for 3 months. What did you think? I was the office skank? Walter's like, well, no, we're dating. And Elaine gives him the go-ahead to tell anyone he wants to that fact. And then she opens the door to the break room where Zach is making out with another girl. Elaine is so grossed out. Oh, man. And she closes the door. Walter calls out, aren't you upset? I mean, hello, they're dating, right? Elaine suddenly remembers and fake breaks down. Yes. Oh, man. It's very dramatic. My take, Elaine's immediate amnesia about Zach, it really gets me every time. It's so stupid. But I just love how she reacts like a regular associate. She's just like, oh, God, gross. Not like a girlfriend after she just told Walter about them dating. And the way he calls her out, like, hello. And that realization, there's so many, there's such a range of emotions here and I love it. But that over the top crying, normally I wouldn't really love this, but the way JLD just says, yes, and peeks through her fingers at Walter while she's quote unquote crying, it makes me laugh every time. All right, next we're on the street. Kramer and Newman are telling a group of, okay, I'm saying homeless because that's how they say in the episode, but I know right now you're supposed to say unhoused. So he's telling a bunch of unhoused men about the rickshaw job and what it entails. One of them walks away while he's explaining. One drops a bottle of booze and yells, "The government!" One of the men, Rusty, volunteers to go first. He's to take the rickshaw down the block and back, but he just takes off with it. The other guy says, "I'll take the job. Potato salad." Apparently, potato salad was ad-libbed by the actor. And that's so funny. That's always made me laugh. All right, next we're in Brentano's. George is trying to return the book he was forced to buy, but the cashier knows it was in the bathroom because it's been flagged. She says, "Please get it out of here. We don't want it near the other books." George is so pissed. "Well, you just lost a customer, and I love to read." And he exits. Jerry turns to see Leo, and he's stealing another book. He goes up to the security guard and asks if he could just, put a little scare into him. Well, the security guard isn't messing around. He calls out a code in his walkie-talkie and yells, "Swarm, swarm!" And quickly, Uncle Leo is surrounded by security getting arrested. "Jerry," he says, "you ratted me out." "Hello," is all Jerry can offer. "Hello," Uncle Leo says. The actress in this scene is Marin Dungy. She plays the cashier. She's also appeared in Alias, King of Queens, Big Little Lies, and many other shows and films. I love her. She's, again, a prime example of there's no small roles, only small actors. The way she says, "Please get it out of here. We don't want it near the other books." She just has such a presence on camera. I really like her. It's no surprise to me that she's made a very successful career as an actress on TV and film. And fun fact, her sister is president of ABC Entertainment. Quite the talented family. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry's on the phone with his mom and dad, and she is so pissed. Helen is so pissed that Jerry ratted out her brother. And she tells Jerry that he's had priors. Really? It was a crime of passion. Leave it alone. And Morty says, besides, it's not stealing if it's something you need. Jerry quickly finds out that they're stealing too. Batteries. Even Helen. Well, sometimes your father forgets and I have to steal them. Jerry hangs up when Newman and Kramer enter. Kramer says how the rickshaw's gone. It got stolen. Newman is determined to find the rickshaw. He and Kramer divide and conquer where to search, and they both leave to Jerry saying, "To the idiot mobile." That makes me laugh too. All right, next we're in Monk's. Jerry and Elaine are at a booth. Jerry says, "Okay, so you're not really going out with Zach, but he's cheating on you." She says, "That is correct, but she's figured out how to overcome this. I stand up for myself, tell everyone I'm dumping his sorry ass, and I become the office, Tina Turner." Jerry completes her thought. All right, she likes that. George enters so defeated. He's been to every Brentano's. They won't take the book back. Is it so horrible to have to keep a book? George doesn't understand what the big deal is. They let you try on pants, not underpants. Elaine sees Uncle Leo as he's leaving, and Jerry gets up and says hello. But Uncle Leo is very cold to him. Jerry apologizes. I didn't know about your past. Uncle Leo tells him, anyone who betrays me, I never forget. Jerry pleads with him with hellos as he walks out the door following Uncle Leo. Elaine looks at George's book and loves it, French Impressionism. She asks, now what's wrong with this book? And George sees an opportunity. He says, nothing. He says he could let it go for 125, trying to make a profit here. Jerry enters. Leo's furious. What is that doing on the table? Referring to the book. George is trying to shut him up, but he blabs to Elaine that George took that book into the bathroom. All right. Elaine puts her hands up to wash them. Everyone clear. Biohazard coming through. And she exits. George is so pissed at Jerry. He finally had an opportunity to get rid of this book, and Jerry blows it. And he says, may I ask, what do you read in the bathroom? Jerry says, so smug, I don't read in the bathroom. Well, aren't you something? My take, we're moving the story along here. Her plan for breaking up with Zach and becoming the Office Tina Turner. I love that reference. It's so perfect. The moment with that book is really funny. I love the dramatic walk-off. Biohazard coming through. I mean, you could say it's over the top and she's doing it to be funny, but I really think Elaine, the thought of her touching anything George has taken into the bathroom, it was brought up on the Notes About Nothing, and I thought this was interesting. We've also determined in a previous episode that George has to remove his shirt when he drops a deuce. And so he's taken off his shirt, reading this book. Like there's such an elaborate bathroom routine for George when he's got to grow a tail. It's crazy. I did want to mention this on an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. The guest was Gary Shandling, the late, great Gary Shandling. And he and Jerry were talking about how during Seinfeld, on the same lot, the Larry Sanders Show was also recording there. And, they would kind of visit each other on breaks and whatnot. So Gary Shandling happened to be in the writer's room just visiting when they were writing this episode. And he came up with George's line, well, aren't you something? Oh, I just love that story. Especially since he passed away. Like, what a great thing to contribute. And it's just so well done. It just conveys such anger. Of course, it's the way Jason Alexander also delivers it, clearly, but it just says everything. It's not that complex or clever of a line, but it's just simple to the point. And it's not typical, right? It's not something you hear every day, but aren't you something? And to say it in reference to someone not having to read anything while they're pooping. I mean, I love it. And that just reminded me, I love these TikToks I see of people when they say I had to take a 90s dump today because they forgot their phone. So they're literally just like sitting on the toilet, looking around, grabbing bottles that they can reach maybe from the tub and like reading them. Totally used to do that, guys. A little glimpse into my pooping habits. I know you've been waiting for it. Okay, next we're in Elaine's office. Peterman enters and wants to talk to her about her lover. She says, yes, I know all about his little performance in the break room. Well, Peterman defends Zach. It says, we've all done this, a little snack on a Love Newton. She's like, Love Newton? He tells her that the problem is more serious. He's back on the horse. Zach is taking drugs, and Peterman feels responsible sending him to Thailand in search of low-cost whistles. Plus, I gave him a few numbers of places he could score near the hotel. Elaine just shakes her head. An addict. Well, this just keeps getting better. She tells Peterman, look, I was planning on breaking up with Zach anyway. He was cheating on me. Peterman insists it was because of the drugs, because of the yam, and that she must help him get through this as he goes cold turkey. Elaine tries to get out of it, but Peterman says if she doesn't, he will strip her of her associate status. He goes to exit and then stops. P.S. The first 24 hours are the worst. Better bring a poncho. My take, So we get this little twist to Elaine's story. And if I'm honest, which why wouldn't I be? It's my podcast. This is where the plot goes sideways for me. I think it could have been fun if Elaine kept finding herself with these different office titles at work. First office skank, office Tina Turner, maybe then office pushover, office whatever. Also, this bothers me because Peterman fired Elaine when he thought she was a drug addict, the opium. And yet he demands that she help Zach with his withdrawals, and he helped him get drugs. Obviously, this is a huge double standard here, but I just think they could have gone a different way and in a funnier direction. More interactions between Elaine and Zach. The actor who plays Zach, he's got quite a resume. He's a really talented comedic actor, so there could have been some more fun interaction between the two of them. Maybe she tries to get Zach to play along with her about the breakup and all this drama she's trying to create so that she's not the office skank. And maybe it backfires. I just think there could have been something funnier than this whole drug addict plot twist. It's just not my favorite. Okay, next we're in Jerry's bed. He's tossing and turning, having a nightmare about Leo doing chin-ups in prison. It's a parody of Cape Fear, I learned. Jerry wakes up in terror to his phone ringing. It's Elaine. She says, "Hey, it's me." "Uncle Leo?" "Oh, that's nice," she says. She's up with Zach. He's going through his withdrawals. She's got rubber gloves on. She's prepared for anything. We hear Zach off camera screaming, "I'm burning up!" She tells him to eat your soup. "You're not feeding him, are you?" Jerry asks. "Why?" Then we hear Zach hurl. She tells him off camera, "I told you, away from the curtains, away. Use your bucket. There you go. That's it." She tells Jerry she has to go and hangs up. Jerry tries to lie back down, but then Kramer comes up to his bed, scaring the crap out of him. And then Newman shows up. "Will everybody please leave?" Newman tells Kramer a postman spotted the rickshaw in Battery Park. "I want everyone out!" Jerry screams like a child. Kramer and Newman are going to discuss it in Jerry's kitchen. "I'll make some cocoa." Before Newman leaves Jerry's bedroom, he says, "Good night, Jerry." "Good night, Newman." Little goofy moment that I think is funny. My take, meh, we're continuing with this whole withdrawal from the yum yum crap. I don't love the yelling at Zach to eat his soup and use his bucket. It's not that funny. The funniest part of the scene to me is when Jerry asks if it's Uncle Leo when Elaine calls. Oh, that's nice. And a little callback here. We've established, it's Elaine that can say, "It's me." She's definitely an "it's me," not Sophie, the Barbie doll from last week. All right, next we're in Battery Park. They find the rickshaw with Rusty asleep next to it on the park bench. "Oh, did I get the job?" he asks. "Yeah, we'll get back to you." They both start pulling the rickshaw, but Newman stops, says, it's foolish for both of them to pull it since it's a conveyance. They do a little harem-scarum game to see who will pull the rickshaw, and Kramer loses, so Kramer is pulling the rickshaw while Newman sits in it. We cut to the street with Kramer pulling Newman, who is heckling his technique. All right, next we're at a thrift store. George is at the counter trying to donate the book that he that he bought for a tax write-off. And one must wonder, does he even know what a write-off is? And he's inflating the value to $200 now. Rebecca DeMornay, we've met her before. She's working the counter. She was in the Muffin Top episode where she yelled at Elaine for donating the stumps and goes off on her. She takes one look at the book and knows it's been flagged because it was in the bathroom. And she knows this because she used to work at a Brentano's. She starts yelling at George, "We're trying to help the homeless here. It's bad enough some nut out there is strapping them to a rickshaw." George is a little rattled. He says, "I'll take $50. Do we have a deal?" "Yeah." She mellows a little bit and says, "And here it is. You take your toilet book out of here and I won't jump over this counter and punch you in the brain. I could take it in merchandise. Here I come." George runs away. I have to take this moment. Sonya Eddy, who plays Rebecca DeMornay. This is the best scene of the whole episode. I wish it was an Elaine scene, but it's not. It's this scene. She is incredible. She is so good. Every line delivery, every expression. I can't get enough of her. But unfortunately, she passed away. And no, Greg, it wasn't because of this podcast or me. But yes, tragically, she died pretty young. But my goodness, how I just have to recognize Sonya Eddy once again. just the bright spot in this episode. All right, next we're at Brentano's and the street. Elaine is paying for a book that'll tell her how to get puke out of cashmere. Apparently the worst is over with Zach, and Elaine can now break up with him, and she's the office hero. Wow, looks like you're better at fake relationships than real ones, Jerry points out. Yeah, she says, I even got an idea out of it. The detox poncho. Elaine exits. And then Jerry asks to see the manager. We cut to the street. Kramer is exhausted pulling Newman and stops to take a break. But after he lets go of the rickshaw, it rolls backwards since they are on an incline. It ends up crashing into Zach, who is now sober and feeling great, says it's the first day of the rest of his life. But no, he gets taken down by the rickshaw, and Kramer just flees the scene. Back at the bookstore, George is skulking around, tells Jerry he plans to steal another book and return it, and that somehow this squares him. It makes no sense, of course. Regardless, he's going in, and he walks away. The manager arrives, and Jerry explains he's there for his Uncle Leo, and the manager apologizes. The policy is to prosecute all shoplifters. Jerry argues, he's just a lonely old man. Besides, all old people steal. I know, that's why we stopped carrying batteries. He comes clean with Jerry, says, we've had a lot of problems with theft lately, and my boss says that I need to make an example out of someone. Oh, Jerry's like, so it could be anyone? As long as we catch him in the act. So Jerry turns to see George, who is walking, clutching his lumpy trench coat filled with books, and he yells to the security, swarm, swarm. And they do, and George yells, no, Jerry! My take on this scene, we're wrapping up the Elaine story with a nice bow. I did like the detox poncho line. It really just seems like Elaine's part of the episode was a last minute add-on. There was a deleted scene, I'm going to mention it here, where she and Peterman are in the break room. I think she's been roped back into helping Zach with his rehab this time because he got hit by the rickshaw, so he's in the hospital. And Peterman's like, wow, you just can't catch a break. You're really the office hard luck case. And he also makes a point to say, the detox poncho, big swing and a miss. As he exits, she yells after him, I'm not the office hard luck case. I'm the office skank. It wasn't great. I'm glad they took it out. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will see you on the other side. Did you know that 100% of human beings are actual human beings? Yeah, totally and completely human, with a brain, heart, lungs, hair, butts, nails, 100%. You heard that right. Even with that indisputable fact, did you know that some boneheads think that not all human beings should have human rights? Like basic human rights, all because of who these human beings love. These dolts actually weaponize their religion to justify their hateful rhetoric, even though they ignore or defend when their beloved priests and politicians commit adultery, rape, pedophilia, and even murder. But hey, at least they aren't openly gay or trans. If you're like me, an ally to the queer and trans community, and believe that those in the community deserve to be treated like human beings, because they are, and feel an urgency to do something for our beloved LGBTQ+ people, here are a few ideas. Donate whatever you can to organizations like the Trevor Project, Human Rights Campaign, LGBTQ Freedom Fund, Transgender Law Center, and many others. Links to these charities will be included in the show notes for this episode. If you're unable to donate money, volunteer for these organizations or research your local queer support centers and see what you can do. Also, check in on your queer or trans friends, their parents, and loved ones. Text or call and say you are with them and will fight for them. And then, actually fight for them. Let them know you are a safe space for them to be who they really are. Most importantly, don't stay silent and allow people in your life to degrade the LGBTQ+ community. Speak up. A simple, that's very homophobic or transphobic, or I don't agree with such hateful views, is very effective and gets your point across. Practice saying it in the mirror. I speak from experience. A couple simple statements like that can really shut a bigot down who isn't expecting to be called out. The future looks bleak for those who aren't white, straight, Christian, male, and even bleaker for those who refuse to cower to the extremists in power. Speak up and often, especially for those who are in danger of losing their voices altogether. Gandhi said it best, "You must be the change you want to see in the world." And RBG also said it really well. Equal rights for others does not mean fewer rights for you. It's not pie. And we're back. There was one little tidbit I found on the IMDb page for this episode I thought was kind of cute. When Peterman is talking to Elaine in her office, there's a vase of red poppies behind him. And of course, this is reference to season 7, episode 16, The Showerhead, when Elaine tests positive for opium because she had been eating poppy seed muffins. All right, now it's time for Greg's Sack Lunch. Greg is the most dedicated contributor to this podcast, and every week he sends us a sack full of his thoughts. His overall thoughts for the bookstore. He says, "This is just an okay episode for me. The best stuff for me here is with George and the book. Specifically, Rebecca DeMornay's return. I also love that we get some Uncle Leo, and for once, Jerry has a better storyline than the others. Elaine's plot starts strong, but I don't care for where it goes. And Kramer and Newman just bring ridiculousness that isn't even funny." Totally. Oh my gosh. I feel like everything you just said in your overall thoughts all echo exactly what I said. Rebecca DeMornay, total bright spot in this episode. I didn't mention Uncle Leo, but I do love Len Lesser. He's so fantastic every time he appears on Seinfeld. And yeah, exactly. Elaine's plot, a lot of potential, starts out strong, but then takes a dumb turn. And speaking of dumb turns, the rickshaw storyline, and yeah, everything about it. It's just ridiculous. Next in Greg's sack are his favorite Elaine moments. He says, "I love when Elaine says to the coworker, 'Maybe I'll dance all over your face.' It's funny how she can in 1 second say something mean and in the next be worried about what her coworkers think of her." I know, Elaine is having quite a time at this party. She's so uncomfortable, but yeah, if you nip at her, she's going to bite real hard back. She's going to draw blood. And that actor who plays Walter, his like sort of defeated look after she says that to him. It's like, what did you expect? Well, maybe he expected her to be like, "Oh, ha, ha, ha." But no, you get threatened, buddy. You can't say that to Elaine at this point. She is not in the mood. She is so uncomfortable at this party. Fun fact, the actor who played Walter is from Detroit, Michigan. Greg goes on to say, "Not an Elaine moment, but I love when Leo is getting arrested and Jerry finally says hello and Leo says hello sadly back. I love this character so much." I know. It's what he asked for. You still say hello. And he kind of like in that small moment where he does say it sadly back, he's like, "Yeah, I get it." On some level, I think he is still glad Jerry said hello, even though it's at this moment where he's getting arrested. It is so funny. I totally agree. Greg goes on to say, "George trying to sell the book to Elaine for $125 when he paid $100 for it cracks me up. He not only wants to get his money back, he's going to try to make money on her. And her overreaction when she finds out it's been in the bathroom makes for a great moment." Yes, all of that is so wonderful. And yeah, of course, it's George. He's going to try and make a profit. And I love that he thinks he can get away with it with Jerry coming back at any moment. Simma, Jerry. Next in Greg's sack, I find his scene swap idea. He says, "Kramer and Newman's shenanigans du jour aren't that funny. This could be removed. Elaine's stuff could be improved with Zach. I liked where it started with her being seen as the office skank, and I think this would have been a great time to bring Peggy back, the coworker who called her Susie. She's the one who thinks Elaine gets around. Instead, they brought this plot in where she can't dump the guy because he's in drug withdrawals. I just think they should have kept the skank thing going, like bring in a new coworker for her to like." You can't see me, but I'm bowing to you right now, Greg. I didn't even think of Peggy. I'm really mad at myself at this moment. I don't know if I'll get over this, but oh my goodness, that is brilliant. Yes, Peggy had pegged her as the office skank episodes ago. "You seem to be with a lot of men." And all of that would go out the window. Oh, what a lost opportunity. On some level, they mentioned nothing about this in the extras, but on some level, I hope that someone thought of this, and maybe that actress wasn't available. She was too busy on Star Trek, The Next Generation, or Deep Space Nine, whatever she was on. I love that so much, Greg. As you can tell, I have nothing else to say except Peggy should have been in this episode. Office skank, keep it going. And it would have been this really fun way. Like, she keeps stumbling though, right? Like, Elaine is trying, maybe they try and bring Putty back or something. I don't know. Oh, this is so great. This is such a great idea. But alas, 'twill never happen. But bravo, Greg. Oh, bravo. Although I don't mean it sarcastically. Truly, truly, bravo. Best idea. And finally, in Greg's sack are his other thoughts. He says, they show the setting of the thrift shop to be Housing Works thrift shops. I have been to these stores. They're way more upscale than is depicted here, and I'm sure they would have taken George's donation, but they wouldn't buy the book. It's not a pawn shop. But again, this Rebecca DeMornay character saves the day. Her calm delivery of, here I come, to George is the funniest thing to me in this whole episode. By far. That scene with Sonya Eddy and Jason Alexander, I could watch it over and over again. Oh, it breaks my heart that she passed away. My goodness, what a talented actress. I can't talk about it enough. I love her so much. But yeah, here I come. And again, like every single line, she delivers with a restraint, but then she turns up the volume when she needs. And I could just, in the hands of someone who's maybe a little bit more literal and not as savvy with comedy, I could see it being like, here I come, like a little bit more to it. But no. It's scarier when you say, here I come, with this kind of a smirk on my face. Like, I know I could just demolish you. And I love the use of punch you in the brain, not punch you in the face, which kind of funny, but I mean, Sonya Eddy would have made it funny, but punch you in the brain. I love the specificity of brain instead of head or face. Oh, yes, definitely the bright spot and funniest moment of the entire episode. Thank you so much, Greg. We love your thoughts. And now it's time to close Greg's sack munch. All right, moving on to my favorite Elaine moments. I mean, you might as well be in a cave. You're hearing echoes all over the place. Same as Greg, I love when she says to Walter, maybe all over your face. That expression, JLD, I mean, we've already established on this podcast how much we love her face acting. I mean, all of her expressions are so well done. And just in that moment, just the sheer hatred in her eyes to Walter. And I believe her. She would definitely carry this out. A close second, I guess, would be, I like the way she says, office skank. JLD can really hit a consonant. I'm telling you, it's always so good. But it has to be said again. You guys are tired of me saying it. My favorite moment of the episode is Sonya Eddy, every single line she says. And my final notes for the episode. As my kids would say, this is a very mid episode for me. And if you're not up on the latest slang, mid refers to something that's very average or poor. And that's very accurate for this episode. I so love how this started. But as I discussed already with my own thoughts and Greg's thoughts, the turn of the plot to take it into this drug addiction and withdrawals, it just lost me. Did not like it. It also occurred to me, this could have been fun for Peterman to keep doing the things Elaine failed at. That could have been another sort of game of the episode, juxtaposing how Peterman succeeds and Elaine fails. Obviously, we have the whole dancing thing. We get that mirrored moment of how he's just a master at dancing when she made a fool of herself. But let's see, his version of the urban sombrero does so well. It's like the bestseller at the company. I mean, the sable hat, the $8,000 hat, yes, no problem. He can expense that. Now, look, I will fully admit, Greg wins the prize for best scene swap, plot swap idea with Peggy coming into the whole Zach and Elaine storyline. But I just thought this was another fun thing that they could have done. How Peterman excels in everything that Elaine fumbled with, starting with that dance and moving on to other stuff. And I guess another alternate Zach plot. I mean, I like the idea of her making out at the party to drown out her bad dancing memories. And then maybe, okay, she tries to recruit him to keep going with this charade about so that she can avoid the office skank title. Or maybe they really start dating. Elaine gets hooked on drugs, becomes a homeless person, and then pulls the rickshaw. There we go. I did it. I achieved the dovetailing. Done and dusted. Let's remake the episode. And I think that's all I can say on the bookstore. Got to end on a high note, showmanship. Please be sure to follow the podcast on social media. On Instagram, it's at Hot Heavy Elaine. On TikTok, at Elaine Bennis Podcast. And if you'd like to email me, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Only a handful of episodes more to go, guys. I will see you next time.